I hear that you have to praise a gacha game before criticizing it so people don't lose their minds. So, I've only played a handful of gacha games, but out of all of them, I would still rank Wooba one of the best gacha games on the market, personally. Now, I've only played like 5 or 6, but despite that, if you're looking for an action gacha game, let alone an open world one, Wuthering Waves is one of my top recommendations, along with Zenless Zone Zero. And while I will be making a positive, get that, okay, y'all heard that, positive game review, so I don't hate the game, I will be making a review within the next week or so to line up with the anniversary release for the game. This video just happened to come out first. So with that out the way, welcome to my biggest gripes with Wuthering Waves. Also, please be easy on me. I do not speak Chinese, and I do not know how to pronunciate any of these characters' names, so I am doing my best. So starting off, I would like to make some slight changes to the Concerto gauge. Now the problem isn't the gauge itself, it's just that some characters suck, like Yuan Wu. Like, some characters have a very basic hit that either does little damage or it doesn't add like any buff to the team outside of an echo set, or both. Some characters just don't do shit at all. Yuan Wu's skill places a turret down that does a coordinated attack to any enemy that hits within his range, and his ultimate provides a shield to the active character while also detonating the skill for extra damage. But you know, the skill doesn't do any damage, so you know, who cares? And by playing him on field, you can build his forte bar to enter his enhanced state, which does God knows what, because I've never done it before in my life. I've never in my entire year of playing this game have filled up his forte gauge, and I probably never will. I haven't even read the description for this. But considering his damage is bad, and unless you really need the shield, it's not really worth playing him on field to get him into his, I don't know, forte state. You're almost incentivized to play him in like a quick swap mode, or you go to Yanwu, you ult for the shield, you place his skill down for the coordinated attacks, and you just switch off and don't even think about him again. Now, if you don't see the issue with that, let's look at his potential teams. And by potential teams, I mean his only team that he's ever used in. His only real team is a Jinsei team, which is you use him to help build her forte bar because she needs coordinated attacks to build up her stacks. Now, the issue here is if you play a quick swap Yuan Wu, you don't get Jinsei's intro buff, which starts her into her main chain, which speeds up her combo. And you also don't get the spectral set buff. Before I got, oh Lord have mercy, Jeje? Is that how you say her name? Before I got Jeje, I was running Jinsei, sub DPS Spectral Rover, and Yuan Wu with the healing set. Now, like I said, because Yuan Wu both does no damage, and he barely, very slowly builds up his Concerto bar, I didn't want to play him on field. So I skill, ulted, swapped. And because I did that, my Spectral Rover never got the Spectral set buff. And it doesn't really matter which character that is, because if I just took Rover out and swapped to Jinsei, she wouldn't get the buff either. So it doesn't really matter which character it is. Whatever character that I'm using after Yuan Wu just don't get their intro buff, and if their Echo set has an intro buff, they don't get that either. My sub DPS can't get their set bonus to do the sub DPSing. So no matter how hard I really tried to make sub DPS Rover work, I basically was nerfing myself because I couldn't get the set bonus because Yuan Wu sucks, which is also kind of my issue with the Concerto gauge. I had to decide between wasting time to build Concerto on a character that I don't even like or losing my Echo buffs, and I chose losing my buffs without a second thought, and I wouldn't even go back. And that's my problem with some of these characters. You either waste your time doing absolutely fucking nothing, or you don't get your character's full power. And against an Impact, and if I compare Wuthering Waves and the other gacha games, not because I'm saying that that gacha game is better, it's just a comparison to help illustrate my point. You know, Wuthering Waves is amazing, please don't attack me. Hell, core games. And against an Impact, if I'm running a Vaporized team, there are some characters that you run like no matter what. Like Shang-Chi is boring as hell. This character, oh, I hate doing anything with him because nothing he does is fun or feels good. His animations are bad, his basic attacks are bad. But you know what? You know what makes all of that better? This is how you play him in Genshin Impact. You saw that, right? Beautiful. Oh my god. And like I previously said, this issue can affect a handful of characters in weather waves to different degrees, and it does kind of like change based on the character. Like Baiju also has a god-awful Concerto build-up, but I guess it's slightly different because she's like an on-field healer, so you like want to use her on-field to heal? And I think one easy way to fix this would be to allow you to build up Concerto off-field. Now, it doesn't have to be like in a crazy amount. I know that there are some really strong like quick swap comps that might be messed up if you started getting like characters intro and outros when you didn't want to. So maybe we could just cap it at like 1/4 built up off stage. So just like how you can build your ultimate up off field, you can sort of like build up a bit of Concerto bar until let's say like 1/4. Just so that for those characters that are a bit harder to use or, you know, so complete as, you can sort of like do their thing, switch off, come back to them. You'll have a decent amount of Concerto bar built up that might hopefully, please God, that might make them a bit smoother to use. And by capping it at, you know, 1/4 or maybe even half the bar, you still hopefully won't hurt the quick swap comps that depend on the ability to just swap without using anyone's intros. And yes, I get that you can help build this up a bit faster with things like dodges, but that's one, boring because dodging is a reactive playstyle instead of a active playstyle in a action game, and two, dodging is dependent on how aggressive and fast the enemy is, so it's not a very consistent fix. The second thing I want to talk about is the outro buffs. Outro buffs are locked to one character, the next one switching in, and leaves when they switch off field. Now I think on release most people didn't like the way this was designed, and I'm sure it's this way for balancing reasons, trying to build an endgame mode around the idea that anyone can just give their Jinsei like 2 skill deepen buffs to do a kajillion damage. It's just, I don't know, it'll probably give most dev teams a headache, but I have a workaround. Trust me, dev team, I have a little faith. Okay. The way outro buffs currently work is the max buff for an attack is 38%, and it's a single buff like how Tao Chi gives a 38% skill deepen. But because Jeje gives 2 buffs, she only gives 25% skill deepen and 20% glacial damage deepen buff. Now, but for some reason, Alto only gives a 23% arrow damage buff. I don't know why, but it's neither here or there. I like the idea that 4-stars can kind of like offer a like very strong single target buff, whereas a 5-star can offer multiple buffs, but like individually they're weaker than the single buffs that like a 4-star or like any other character might offer. But then you run into issues like Alto. Alto's buff is already pretty bad, but when you look at the current win DPS we have, like Jiyan's best comp runs Mortefi because Mortefi is a better buffer for Jiyan than Alto is. Now there could be an upcoming win DPS that might come out that might need a separate buffer than Mortefi, but if we're being completely honest, they'll most likely have a way better arrow damage buffer than Alto, possibly Arrow Rover, maybe a upcoming 5-star. Now the easy way they change this is just to remove the mechanic where you lose your ultra buff upon switching out. Now while that sounds nice, that might affect the game balance in ways that I'm not really thinking about, and I don't honestly really care to think about. So let's try a different way. What if we just change small buffs like that to a team-wide buff, and then we can bypass both issues? If 38% is the max for a single buff and 25-ish% is the max for like dual buffs, if we just change Alto to have a team-wide, I don't know, 18% arrow deepen buff, you can actually consider putting him on your team with other arrow DPS. So instead of Alto competing with your main buffer like Mortefi, he would instead be competing with your sustain slot. And I mean, at this point, you might as well just change, I don't know, like Yang Yang's energy buff to a team-wide energy buff, because I don't watch a lot of Wuwa gameplay. I watch a few streamers. I don't know who's using Yang Yang. I use it for my Jinyan comp because he just doesn't have the energy, but that is literally it. But making some characters have a team-wide ultra buff instead of a single ultra buff would help my issue with the team building. See, back in Genshin Impact, Genshin has the elemental reaction system. So in Genshin Impact, while the individual character power levels can be like very important, you know, like just being quite frank, Nuvolette is just way better than Ioto. Having those like broken characters can almost be secondary to having consistent elemental reactions. You know, because Genshin Impact has ICD, attack speed, the skill duration and ult duration, how even strong you apply an element to an enemy, it allows weaker or less meta characters to still find a place in your team because they may be better at keeping your elemental reactions consistent compared to some stronger characters. So by changing some buffs to team-wide buffs, I feel like this can allow some weaker characters in WoW to still have a spot in the meta outside of some like desperate pick because you lost a 50-50. Like if Alto again had a team-wide arrow buff, I'm not sure what the number would need to be better than running a Shorekeeper, but if that number was good enough, then I could actually decide between running a healer for sustain, who buffs me, or running Alto for a bit higher damage output, but requiring a higher skill floor for me. And I would enjoy that type of change, because not only would it spice up the team building, it would allow different characters to still be relevant in the meta, despite their, let's just say, garbage kit. And last but not least, I want to talk about the content. WoW is probably my least played gacha game currently in rotation, and the only 3 games I really rotate between is WoW, HSR, and Zenless Zone Zero, and that's because it's just lacking content. Zenless Zone Zero has so much that you can do in the game. Mini games, arcade games, like 4 different endgame modes, gajillion quests. I genuinely don't know where all these quests come from. Playable story missions for extra rewards on hard difficulty, and whatever the hell this is. I genuinely don't even know what this is, but shit, I'll take it. Bro, there is so much to do in this game. Like, come on, WoW, you can do better than this. Now, this is a part of the script where I would say, bring back the Elusive Realm, and so based on the anniversary stream, they are, so I'm happy about that. But going on to my other examples, so outside of bringing the Elusive Realm back, which they already announced that they're going to do, what I would suggest is resettable hologram fights. Like, bro, come on, you literally have a shop for it. Just reset them and reset the shop. Now, it would be a bit insane if they like all reset, because that would be like a ton of free asteroid, which, if we're being honest, it's just not happening. But just turn that hazard mode into an actual game mode. Every version update, we get a handful of holograms to fight for, with a shop that resets every month. Similar to like how Honkai Star Rail has the Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow and Pure Fiction that resets and rotates every like 2-3 weeks or so. We could have the Tower of Adversity, and then the Hazard Game Mode that could just reset. They could cycle through each other. Or the Hazard Zone could just reset at the end of every version patch. And those are probably my biggest gripes with the game, so just getting into like a rapid fire mode, things I don't really need to go that in depth on. The game should have way more Echo Phantoms. It's been out for like a year, and I think there's only like 18 in the game. I think the anniversary announced maybe like another 2 or so. Do more of that. More of the like rare echoes roaming the world would be nice. An echo stat reroller. Either reroll the percentages on the echo, whereas you have it fully maxed out. Let's say you got like a low crit rate roll, low blah blah blah. You just want to reroll it to see if you get a higher roll. Either do that or just completely reroll the stats. Now, they announced the Echo Modular or whatever that lets you pick the main stats, and again, that's nice, but that's not really my issue because I'm getting the echoes that I want. They're just rolling terribly. In fact, just make it so that when you level echoes, you can just see the stats and then you can use your tuners to unlock the percentage. So you just level them up to whatever level you want, and then when you see the sub rolls, it just says HP crit, and then you just use your tuner to unlock the percentage. That would be beautiful, way better. More free-to-play weapons. The free-to-play weapons kind of suck ass. A 5-star selector for the standard banner would be amazing. I got absolutely gaslit into pulling Concerto, and this dude, oh my god, do you see him? Oh my god, I pride myself on being, high IQ intelligent. I know what's what. I can read the meta, and I got absolutely bamboozled on this character, and I just want an encore, and I don't want to lose a 50-50 to get an encore. Just give us a standard selector for the character banner, just like the weapon banner, please. And with that, we can make WoW great again. No, not really. I mean, the game's already pretty great. I have a lot of fun. I love the direction that the game is going and all the changes that have made, but I feel like the game could be even better. And I feel like most of the things that I asked for are not that hard. It wouldn't bankrupt Kuro games. It wouldn't, decrease their income in half. It's just things that would not only probably improve the game for most people, but also make older characters and less weaker characters a bit more viable. So, what changes would you like to see in Wuthering Waves? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like and sub to the channel. And peace. Thanks for watching.